Building is on fire and someone is cooking while singing. Soldiers and running up those stairs and one of them slams open the door that looks to be their captain. He said, "Where's the princess?" The girl replied, "Oh, that would be me. But give me a sec, I just poured myself this bowl." While confused by her attire, the soldier said, "You are Luana? The sixth princess?" While munching the food, Luana replied, "Yes, I am." The soldier replied, "Take her away." Soldiers grabbed her. Luana in her mind talks to herself, "My soup. You could have let me finish my soup." In front of the castle building, all the peoples are sitting on the ground. Luana, passing through the people, said, "Excuse me. Pardon me. Coming through." The girl besides her whispers to Luana, "This area is for the royal family. You may want to move before they flog you, or worse." This girl is Ingrid, the first princess of the kingdom. Luana replied, "Oh, I'm a princess." The red-haired girl said to "Oh, wait a second. I heard about a princess who lived in some abandoned castle. Is that you?" After listening to this, peoples besides them started to talking to each other, saying, "I thought she died. She's the daughter of that maid. That poor thing. Look at her." Luana thinks in her mind, "Laugh all you want. We're all gonna get beheaded here anyway." She tells, "How do I know this? Because I know everything that will happen in this kingdom. I read about it in a book, in a previous life. It was quite a popular romantic fantasy novel where I was from." She tells the female lead was the first princess, Ingrid, that beautiful creature from earlier. As for the male lead of the story, he was a warmongering emperor who planned to conquer the entire continent. Upon seeing Ingrid, the emperor asked her to be his concubine, but she refused. This infuriated him to no end. So he ordered his duke to seize the kingdom. As his loyal general, the duke complied. The kingdom fell at his hand. But upon seeing Ingrid, the duke too wound up, falling for the lovely princess, the princess of the kingdom he had ravaged. And I became Princess Luana, a minor character in the story with no significance whatsoever. I was the daughter of the king and a lowly handmaiden, an illegitimate child. So I was kept hidden away in an abandoned castle, and hated every minute of it. I realized that I couldn't change my destiny, so I figured, why not make the most of what I had? She thinks I just wanted to enjoy a quiet, peaceful existence. I decided to live out my days eating whatever I wanted until I died. They say that if you die with a full stomach, you look extra content in death. So there's that too. She talks to herself. I still can't stop thinking about the soup I wasted when they dragged me out of there. Someone said, "Is this everyone?" A soldier replied, "Yes, my lord. The conquering general and duke who seized the kingdom legion." Everyone bows in fear. While Luana thinks his uniform's brown, like chocolate. The haired girl said, "I don't want to die." Luana thinks in her mind, of course she's scared. That's Legion. Wait, what was his nickname again? She thinks it was either the Emperor's Sword or the Emperor's Hound. But neither name accurately encompassed the breadth of his cruelty. Ingrid said to the Duke, "Why have you brought us here?" The Duke replied, "Isn't it obvious? You should know what happens to royals of a conquered kingdom." The kingdom's king, while kneeling, said, "Please, spare us. We'll give you whatever you ask." Luana talks to herself in her mind, but they looted and plundered everything. What could we possibly give him? The Duke looks towards Luana. Luana talks to herself, "Wait, what? What's he? Is he coming over here?" The Duke said to Luana, "You?" Luana said, "Me?" Luana thinks in her mind, "But I didn't say anything." Ingrid, while guarding Luana, said, "You stay away from her. I'll not let you lay a hand on her or any member of the royal family." Luana thinks in her mind, "I really appreciate how she's standing up for me, but she obviously doesn't even know my name." Duke said to Ingrid, "Why do you care what I do to her?" Ingrid replied, "She's too young. Whatever you plan to do to her, do to me instead." Luana telephones in her mind, "Oh right. I remember this scene. This is the part of the story where the Duke is moved by Ingrid's gesture of self-sacrifice. And after being impressed, he gets smitten. She tells in her mind while thumbs up this is the beginning of their heart-pounding romance. I love this storyline. After seeing Luana, Duke said to Luana that was an odd gesture. What does it mean? Luana, while bowing, said it was my way of saying that you are the best, my lord. The Duke said, I see. Show me your hands. Luana replied, pardon me? The Duke said, do you take me for a fool? I saw you fidgeting with something. Now, show me your hands. Luana started babbling, it really wasn't anything. It was a bug. It bit my finger. And my finger started itching, so I scratched it. It's still itchy. The Duke said to his soldiers, what's she blathering about? I have no time for this nonsense. Search her. Luana talks in her mind, wait. No. Soldiers come towards her and started searching her. Luana laughs. Please. That tickles. One soldier said to the Duke, we found something, my lord. Soldier asked Luana, what is this? She replied him. What do you think it is? Luana thinks, how do I explain this? Soldier asked her again while twisting her hand, answer me. Is this a weapon? Or some kind of poison? Luana said, ow. No, it's not a weapon. Ow. Ow. Arg. He's gonna break my arm. Soldier said, so it's poison. She replied, it's not poison either. The Duke said to Luana while drawing his sword, speak the truth and I'll kill you quickly. Luana thinks in her mind, well, I guess this is it. I figured my character would end up dying one way or another. The only say I have in the matter is how painful it'll be. Luana said to the Duke, it's beef jerky. The Duke replied, what? Luana said, I said, it's beef jerky with dash. Duke again said, what did you say? Luana thinks in her mind, why can't he understand me? The Duke said, I cannot make out what you're saying because you're mumbling too much. And if you don't do as I say. Luana shouted, it's beef jerky with cheese. Everyone, while confused, said it's beef jerky with cheese. Beef jerky with cheese. The Duke said, did I hear her correctly? He said, I asked whether I heard her correctly. Soldiers replied to the Duke, she said it was beef jerky with cheese, my lord. That's what I heard too, my lord. Luana, while grabbing Ingrid's arm, said, that's right. And I made it myself. The red-haired princess said, what? How could she be eating at a moment like this? Ingrid, while protecting Luana, said, she was abandoned at a young age. She didn't know any better. But she has a good heart. Luana whispered to herself, no one said we weren't allowed to eat. Luana come towards the Duke and said, would you like to try some? Luana talks in her mind, if the Duke happens to like my jerky, then I might be able to escape this situation. One of the soldiers shouted, my lord. No. You mustn't eat that. It could be poisoned. They locked Luana in prison. Luana talks in her mind, was it that bad? Or maybe cheese isn't his thing? But that combination makes it extra delicious. Luana talks to the soldier, excuse me, sir? You were there earlier, right? In all the commotion of being dragged here and locked up, I lost track. Do you know what happened to the rest of my jerky? The soldier replied, I don't understand how you can be curious about that right now. But since you asked, I'll humor you. Under the Duke's orders, we destroyed it. Luana talks in her mind, I'm doomed, that was my only hope. But since he hated it, I guess this is the end. She tells well. It was just a matter of time. Luana doesn't appear in the novel after the kingdom is conquered. That's why I expected and was prepared for death, but in a flashback it's beef jerky with cheese. She thinks I never imagined that I'd die because of some beef jerky. As angry as he is, I wonder if he'll still make my death quick like he promised. What if he thinks I intentionally tricked him by giving him disgusting jerky and punishes me for it? Or what if he leaves me locked up in this tiny cell forever? She thinks in her mind, I've already experienced being trapped all my life. But the thought of living out my days here. The Duke comes to the prison and said to Luana, "You, witch." Luana, while confused, thinks, "What did he just call me?" The Duke said, "You know what you have done, do you not? That beef jerky that you made. How did you make it taste like that?" He tells a witch cursed my family, and for generation after generation, everything we ate tasted foul. Luana thinks, while confused, a witch? A curse? She said, Hold on a minute. So you didn't lock me up because it tasted bad. You locked me up because... The Duke said it tasted okay. He said if I could taste the food you made, despite the witch's curse, then that must mean you're a witch yourself. Luana thinks, what? What the hell is he saying? Luana tells in her mind, wait, it's coming back to me now. I remember something like that from the book. That's right. Some witch placed a curse on his family. They were robbed of the ability to properly taste food. Everything they ate would taste like garbage, leaving them unable to experience the joy of food. She tells that witch disappeared without a trace, but the Duke's family has been in relentless pursuit of her to get revenge ever since. I mean, with the anguish the curse has inflicted on his life and his family, his hatred for her is immense. Luana thinks in her mind, but I'm not that witch. I'm just a friggin' minor character. She said, wait a second. She thinks in her mind, I swear the book said nothing about my character being a witch. She shouted, I am not a witch. The Duke said, naturally, I don't expect you to confess that now. But we have ways of making you talk. Luana talks in her mind, my plan was to live out my days enjoying food until the day I died. Nowhere did it include torture. This can't be happening. I need to find a way out of this, now. Otherwise, this crazy Duke is gonna torture the crap out of me. She thinks I got it. While bowing to the Duke, Luana said, you got me. I'm a witch. She talks in her mind, I'll just have to play along for now. The Duke said, what did you say? Luana replied, oh, but I can't cast or lift curses. I'm only a witch in training. Oh, look at this. This is the mark of a witch. She talks in her mind, obviously it's not. It's a battle scar from a cooking accident. The Duke said, but you cast a spell on that beef jerky, no? Luana said, sure. Yes, that's right. She said, though I didn't really need magic for that. I just used the high-quality beef here. The cows graze on the best grass in the kingdom. And then I added in some of my special ingredients. The Duke said, what, you mean, like insect parts and such? Luana said, why would I ever do that? Anyway, now that I confessed, can we move past this torture stuff? Duke talks in his mind, that beef jerky. I could actually feel its texture. In fact, it was good. While glowering at Luana, so, she's only a witch in training? The Duke said, very well. I won't torture you. However, at another place out of the prison. Luana said, oh wow. She thinks I was so worried that I'd never get to see the sky again. A soldier standing behind Luana said, when will you start? Get to it. Luana replied, yes, sir. Right away, sir. She thinks in her mind, I gotta cook this like my life depends on it. 'Cause my life literally does depend on it. A while back, the Duke said to Luana, tomorrow, you will prepare a meal for me. If I enjoy what you have prepared, then I will spare your life. Luana talks to herself in her mind, whoa. I could never get ingredients this quality when I was locked away in that abandoned castle. In fact, this is the first time I've seen ingredients of this quality since I arrived in this world. She said, okay. Time to get to work. With ingredients like these. She talks in her mind, I'm gonna cook a meal so delicious that even if it was the last thing you ever ate, you'd have no regrets. The soldier thinks she's using an interesting choice of ingredients. Luana said, finished? She said this should keep it nice and warm. It's ready. The soldier said, follow me. While following the soldier, Luana sniffs the smell and thinks it smells so delicious. Ugh. I can't believe I won't get to eat any of this myself. Both of them enter the Duke room. The Duke glances. Luana talks in her mind, stay calm. She said to the Duke, your food is ready. She thinks in her mind, I know he'll like it. It's impossible not to. The Duke said while looking at the food, What kind of a dish is this? Luana replied, oh. She babbles in her mind, it's called milfainade, Nana. It's a dish I used to love in my previous life. The Duke said, I see. Luana thinks is what I wish I could tell him. She said it's my own special creation. The Duke said, preparing an unknown meal when your very life depends on it. Quite a risky choice. Luana talks in her mind, whatever, jerk face. Just eat it. She tells in her mind, with that incredible beef, fresh vegetables, and delectable peanut sauce, nobody can resist this. She said to the Duke, it tastes best when you dip each bite in the sauce. Enjoy. The Duke said, just to be safe, you eat it first. Luana replied with pleasure. She talks in her mind, what, you think I poisoned it or something? I would never treat the food that way. She tells, first, you wrap the beef in a cabbage leaf and dip it into the homemade peanut sauce. While eating the food, she said while feeling euphoric young. The Duke said to Luana, what did you pick it up with? Huh? Oh. They're wooden eating utensils. Luana talks in her mind, when I realized there were no chopsticks in this kingdom, I carved my own with the nanny who raised me. The Duke talks in her mind, I guess it's not poison. The Duke said, but to be sure, I should wait and see. See if the poison has a delayed effect. Luana shouted, what? She said, no way. It won't taste as good if it's cold. After slamming the table, she said, no matter what the dish is, it tastes best when it's hot. The Duke thinks in his mind, what a strange girl. Is this how all witches act? But strangely, for some reason, I don't think she's lying. After swallowing the food, the Duke asks, with all that was at stake, this is the meal you chose to serve? He thinks perfectly blanched sweet Napa cabbage, tender and savory premium beef, and a delectable peanut sauce to top off the flavor. This tastes so. Lon said, it's good, huh? The Duke said it tasted fine. Luana thinks in her mind, oh, you loved it. I can see it on your face. Luana started chattering, it tastes even better with noodles. There's this type that's like pasta but slightly thicker, and it goes perfectly with the broth when boiled together. The Duke slams the table and said, when the Emperor sent me here, he promised me something. From the spoils of my conquest, I could choose one thing for myself before handing the kingdom over to him. He said, of course, there was nothing in this feeble little kingdom that I wanted, until now. Luana thinks, wait, what? This wasn't in the book. Luana closed her eyes and clenches her hands. While staring at Luana, Duke thinks, what is she doing? Then Luana said, now hold on just a second. Are you referring to me? Just what exactly are you planning to do with me? The Duke instantly said, you'll stay locked up until my administrative duties here are completed. Then you'll accompany me back to the Empire. Luana thinks in her mind, so that means I'll have to spend every day cooking for my life? Luana said to the Duke, have you thought this thing through, sir? If you want a blonde-haired, blue-eyed princess, surely there are prettier ones than me. The Duke replied, not interested. Luana, then what about that sexy red-headed princess from earlier? The Duke replied, no thank you. Luana said, but this is a big decision, isn't it? Shouldn't you take more time to mull it over? While glaring, the Duke said, do you dare question my decision? While averting her eyes, Luana saw WLIM. The Duke said to his soldier, let her eat, and then lock her up. Luana saw wait. Luana pictures the Duke in her mind saying to her, you're my slave now. Not quite what he said. Luana thinks, I still can't believe it. How the heck did this happen? While cooking the food, she thinks, well, I think better on a full stomach, so. Luana started singing while cooking. The soldier said, what are you doing? Luana replied, singing. Food tastes better when it's made with joy. The soldier said, it sounds like a spell to me. Luana thinks in her mind, this guy thinks I'm a witch too. What's with these people? She said, sure, let's leave it at that. Hey, do you want to try making one? The soldier replied me. The soldier also started singing while whispering and started making a rice ball. Luana said while almost laughing, I think it's ready now. Let's take a look. She said, oof. That's ugly. Here. Watch carefully. I'll show you how to do it. She said we started with a mix of eggs and finely diced vegetables and added some perfectly seasoned rice. Now we just have to squeeze them into round balls and... The soldier said, wow. Luana said, give it another go. Your hands are bigger than mine, so you can make even bigger ones. The soldier thinks in his mind she seems kind for a witch, must be one of the friendly kinds. He feels the chills and thinks, why do I suddenly feel like the Duke is watching? After making the rice balls, Luana said, time to dig in. Yum! She thinks in her mind the rice is nice and chewy. The cooked vegetables and the seasoned rice go perfectly together. She said to the soldier, try some. He started eating while trembling with fear. He said, that's delicious. So chewy. So savory. Luana replied, see? I told ya. She said, I'm gonna keep the rest for later. Here. Take this with you. You can share it with your buddies. The soldier said, and what do you plan to do with the rest? Luana replied, give some to my old nanny, my caretaker. Can you take me to where she's being held? She talks in her mind, of course, I'm gonna eat some of it too. The soldier replied, I'm not sure that'll be possible. Luana said, what? Why not? While standing in front of a big door, Luana thinks, oh, right. They're keeping the royals separate from the servants. She thinks I can't survive living among those princesses. They'll just treat me like their maid. I've been living in isolation all this time. I've never been part of the royal family. If I'm lucky, they'll treat me like a maid. Luana said, th the soldier while sniffling, do I have to go in there? Can I go somewhere else? The soldier replied, sorry. Those are the Duke's orders. Luana thinks, fine. If I was able to survive that crazy Duke, I can handle a group of snobby princesses. Dear God, give me strength. The soldier, while remembering the scene from a while before, thinks when it comes to food, I guess even royal decorum goes out the window. One at a time, please. They were like a pack of hungry wolves. Someone said, Lugard. How's work? Lugard said, I just finished my shift. The other person said, me too. And I'm famished. Lugard sighed, oh. I have something here, and extends his hand. The other person said, what is it? Lugard sighed, it's a rice ball. That outcast princess made it. The other person said, a princess made it? It smells really good. The Duke came close to them and said, you. Both of the soldiers said, my lord, and stood attentively. The Duke said, what did I hear you say just now, Lugard? Lugard said that the rice ball was made by the outcast princess, sir. The Duke said, is that so? What a shrewd witch. In the room for royal captives, princesses are struggling with each other for the food. One said, hey. I grabbed it first. Others said, you did not. My finger was clearly under your hand. Luana, while sniffling, said, all those rice balls. Ingrid said to Luana, you there? The floor must be cold. Why don't you sit up here with me? Luana said, thank you. Luana sat on the bed beside Ingrid and feels awkward. While looking at Ingrid, Luana thinks, well, look at her. I can see why she's the main character. She hasn't been able to bathe or eat properly since she got locked up, and yet she's as beautiful and elegant as ever. She talks in her mind anyway. At least I was able to save one for myself. I'm tempted to eat it now, but I think I'll save it for breakfast tomorrow. Ingrid stares at the rice ball. Luana said, Ingrid? Ingrid said to Luana, I am so sorry. That was rude of me. That's your food. I shouldn't have been staring. Luana thinks in her mind earlier, she was the only one who sat by quietly while all the others fought over the food. Of course, she'd be hungry. She may look like a doll, but she's still human, and I know hunger when I see it. Launce said Ingrid. Please. Take it. Ingrid said, oh, I couldn't. It's yours. Luana said while handing her the rice ball, it's okay. I ate a lot before I came here. After taking the rice ball, Ingrid said, how about we do this then? She splits the rice ball and saw this is enough for me. Thank you for sharing this with me. Luana thinks in her mind Ingrid is beautiful inside and out. While she thinks, no wonder both the Emperor and the Duke wind up falling for H-. The Duke came barging and come near Luana and said, you. Luana replied, me? Luana thinks in her mind, this feels all too familiar. The Duke said, come with me. Luana talks in her mind, what? You're the one who ordered me here in the first place. Make up your mind. While standing up, she thinks, oh well. I guess I have no choice. Your wish is my karma. Ingrid blocked Luana and said this is unacceptable. Luana, while watching Ingrid, said in her mind, Ingrid? Ingrid said to the Duke, I won't let you boss her around anymore. She's royalty. I'll not have my little sister at your beck and call. The Duke replied, is that so? The Duke called his guards and ordered him bring her here. Soldier running towards Ingrid said, yes, sir. The soldier grabs Luana's arm and she said, Owie. The Duke said to soldier, the not her, the other one. The soldier grabs Ingrid and took her away. Luana shouted, Ingrid. Then the Duke said, there. The obstacle has been removed. Now lead the way to the kitchen. In the kitchen, Luana asked the Duke, what would you like me to make? He replied, that thing you made for my men. Luana asked, huh? You mean the rice balls? He replied, yes. That. Luana, while frustrated, thinks in her mind, that's the reason for all this? For that overly dramatic entrance of yours? And the unnecessary banishment of Ingrid? Is what I'd love to say, but... She said, isn't it kinda late for a meal? The Duke said, are you refusing me? Luana said, and no. No. I love cooking in the middle of the night. From now on. The Duke said, you cook for me and only me. Luana quickly turned around and asked, what? The Duke, you shall not cook for my men or your sisters ever again. What's mine is mine. And I have no interest in sharing. She replied, oh. I understand. She said, but the veggies are about to burn. While going away from Luana, the Duke said, get back to it then. She replied, yes, sir. She thinks in her mind, phew. That was scary. And why does he always have to stand so close? Luana prepares the food and serves the Duke. She said to the Duke, so, don't forget to chew thoroughly. The Duke, while eating, replied, that's what I'm doing. Luana thinks in her mind, you could have fooled me. You're eating it so fast. After eating, Duke said, that took care of my hunger. Luana talks to herself, you ate 6 whole rice balls in the middle of the night. She said while feeling joyful, okay, time to go back. Thank you? I'll show myself out. The Duke said, no, not back there. You will return to my quarters. Luana, while showing blank expression. She said, say what now? The Duke said, you heard me. Follow me to my quarters. Luana said, haha. You mean why your room? She thinks in her mind, why the hell would I go there? The Duke said to Luana, while I don't think you have it in you to escape, I won't take any chances. You will stay where I can keep an eye on you. While walking, Luana talks in her mind, well, he's right about one thing. I have no idea how I'd escape from here. She thinks it should be fine. I'm sure he lives in a suite with, like, multiple rooms and all. She tells, but that was just wishful thinking. Because... She talks in her mind, I can't believe this. I'd rather be at the mercy of those snobby princesses than here. She talks in her mind, he could have chosen any place in the entire palace. Why did he choose a single room? While she is thinking, the Duke started undressing. Luana looks at the Duke, and while flustered, she said, I'm sorry. I didn't know you were gonna undress. I won't look. She turns around and thinks in her mind, I can't believe this. I'd rather be at the mercy of those snobby princesses than here. Well, she thinks while turning her head since I'm stuck here anyway, maybe just a tiny. She looks at the Duke and thinks, well, he's kinda lean and fit. I assumed all royals were kinda fat, and it was hard to tell through all his robes. While she's thinking, the Duke saw Luana and glares at her. Luana turns her head the other way. She thinks, but it's like this Duke hasn't been eating like wait a sec. The curse. I guess he really couldn't taste anything before eating my food. The Duke said to Luana, what are you mumbling about over there? Luana, while looking the other way, said, have you finished changing? The Duke replied yes. After looking at the Duke, Luana thinks he looks different without that scary uniform on. In fact, he looks kinda hot. While she is thinking, the Duke picks his sword and she thinks, okay, scratch that. He's still scary AF. Luana asks the Duke, can I ask you something? Are you gonna sleep like that? It looks pretty uncomfortable. The Duke replied, I have a hard time sleeping as it is. And when I do manage to fall asleep, I can't for long, because of the curse. She said, so about that curse, what exactly does it do? Do you really taste nothing? Then the Duke said, I thought you were a witch? Shouldn't you know more about curses than I do? She replied, curses aren't, they're not my specialty. I don't know a whole lot about them. Then the Duke said, I can taste things. He said while clenching onto his sword, but all the food I eat feels like foul grains of sand in my mouth. And soups and stews taste like sewage water. But when I eat the food you cook, you taste what food should taste like. Then Luana thinks in her mind, that's why he couldn't stop eating my rice balls. If he was cursed from birth, then he's never tasted anything like that before. The Duke asks Luana, wait, why are you so curious about the specifics of the curse? What exactly are you up to? Are you scheming something? Luana, while flustered, replied, and no. Nothing. It was just simple curiosity. Honest. She pulled the blanket and started sleeping on the sofa and said, okay. I think I'll turn in now. Good night. After a while trying to sleep, Luana thinks it's so quiet. When the Duke conquered the kingdom, I thought that was the end of my story. I thought maybe I'd be beheaded with the others. Or left to rot in some cell. She thinks, but my head's still intact. And I still get to eat. And here I am on a nice comfy bed instead of some cold prison floor. Well, a couch really. But same difference. She pictures the Duke in her mind saying, you come with me. Cook. Sleep in my room. She thinks, but the Duke sure is making a lot of demands of me. Wait, if I'm the only one whose cooking can get past the Duke's curse, I just might be able to survive here after all. She thinks, and if I can do that. After closing her eyes, she thinks, I wonder how those two are doing? My old nanny and Ingrid. She fell asleep. In a dream, Luana is running and calling Nanny. Nanny! After hugging her Nanny, she said, where have you been? Her Nanny replied, Princess. Then Luana said, I had the worst nightmare. This scary-looking Duke kept calling me a witch and forcing me to cook for him. Her Nanny replied, what a strange dream you had. She said, I know, right? I'm so glad it was only a dream. I was so scared. She thinks, wait a sec. Since when did Nanny? While opening her eyes, she thinks, feels so firm? She opens her eyes and she was squeezing the Duke's chest. The Duke said to her, good morning. And Luana, while confused that why is she in Duke's bed? She talks in her mind, huh? Oh my God! The Duke said, which? The Duke said, you're quite bold, aren't you? You claimed you were going to sleep, but then you crawled into my bed. He told her you jumped into my arms and pinned me down. And you started fondling my cheese. Luana, while blushing, said, why didn't you push me away? The Duke replied, as a knight, chivalry precludes me from doing such a thing to a lady. Luana talks in her mind, chivalry my ass. You were about to torture me yesterday. The Duke said, however, you did lay hands on me without my consent. And for that, your offending hands must be removed. She cowers in fear and bowed down to the Duke and said, please, forgive me. What can I do to make it right? The Duke, while drawing his sword from sheath, said, Are you leaving it to me to come up with something? Then Luana replied, And no, I'll think of something. Then the Duke said, Well, I am hungry. Luana quickly jumps from bed and said something delicious coming right up. After a while in the kitchen, while cooking, she talks in her mind, Oh my God, my God. Stupid body. What were you thinking? How could you sleepwalk at a time like that? Ugh. It wouldn't have happened if that stupid Duke didn't have me sleeping in his stupid, single room. I mean, what kind of Duke? While she's thinking, her hand was close to getting cut by a knife, and she realizes and said, Holy. She thinks while slapping her face with both hands that was close. I gotta focus. Because if I screw up this meal, I'm gonna lose a lot more than just a finger. She thinks while preparing the food. Let's see. I take some finely minced beef and pork and mix it in with milk and homemade breadcrumbs. Next, I season it with various spices and add tomato sauce, minced onions, and cheese. Once it's all mixed, shape it into the form of a loaf and into the oven it goes. While I wait, I'll turn my attention to a side dish. A nice little potato salad. After almost finishing preparing food, she said, Almost done. Is there anything I'm forgetting? The soup. I'll start with butter and onions. A guard came and asked Luana, Excuse me? Will it be much longer? Luana replied, Oh, I was just getting started on the soup. The guard said, Then you may have a problem. The Duke has begun sharpening his sword. While sniffling, Luana said, Oh, I meant, all done. While digging the serving cart, Luana thinks, What a shame. That soup would have complemented these dishes nicely. But it can't be helped. A hungry Duke is an angry Duke. The guard opened the door of the room and she went in. The Duke standing there said, You're here. Luana replied, Yes, sir. While serving the food, she said, So, today, the main course is, The Duke asked, Meatloaf. She kept talking, and you can enjoy that with a side of potato salad. The Duke said to Luana, Hand me another plate. She replied, Huh? Okay. Here you go. The Duke said to Luana, Sit. She replied, Pardon? He said, Are you refusing me? She said, I think I'll take a seat. Then Luana started eating. While eating, she thinks, Huh? What the heck? What, are we food buddies now? She talks in her mind, Why did he ask me to join him? Does he want me to test for poison again? No. Can't be. He's already started eating. The Duke asked Luana, Do you not wish to eat? She replied, And no, sir. I'll eat. She talks in her mind, I have no idea what he's up to with this, but I'm a foodie through and through. So if he wants me to eat, I'll gladly eat. After started eating, she thinks, Yum. The soft, bread-like texture with each bite filled with the savory taste of tender beef and pork, beautifully accented by the succulent tomato sauce. She thinks it's perfect. After enjoying that perfect blend of flavors, I'll take a spoonful of potato salad. It's the perfect addition with its cool and creamy texture. She thinks while glacing at the Duke, they're both delicious. I wonder if the Duke is also Enjo. She asks the Duke, Did you finish all the meatloaf? When? She talks in her mind, I intentionally made 5 portions just so it'd keep him busy eating longer. The Duke thought I finished it while you were lost in thought with that spoonful of potato salad. Luana thinks in her mind, is he actually eating these things or just pouring all the food down his throat? She asks the Duke, So, was the meal to your liking, sir? The Duke replied, Well, it was fine. Luana thinks so he liked it. Thank God. Because if he chopped off my hands, that'd certainly put an end to my cooking. The Duke said to Luana, You are forgiven for last night's transgression. While bowing her head, she said, Thank you, sir. She thinks in her mind, I'm saved. The Duke stares at Luana and said, That takes care of that. While snapping his fingers, he said, Now then, there's one more thing I'll need from you. Maids grabbed Luana and she said, What's going on? Why, you said I was forgiven. Why are you doing this? The dukes ignore Luana. Luana talks in her mind, what the heck? What was with that look on his face? I did what he asked. And he enjoyed the food. The duke said to the maids, take her away. While the maids talk Luana away, she said, hey, please, where are they taking me? Luana, while sitting in the bathtub. Maids are wiping her body. She asks excuse me? Is this some kind of twisted ritual? Are you planning to drown me in my own bathwater or something? One of the maids said, pardon? I think there's been a big misunderstanding, Miss Luana. We were simply instructed to bathe and dress you in new clothes. The other maid said yes. For all his cruelties, the Duke draws the line at harming any lady he lays with. Luana said while getting flustered, what? Whoa! Talk about a big misunderstanding. The first maid said, oh. Your nails will need a proper trimming too. Luana shouted, why won't anyone here ever listen to me? Maid prepared Luana a nice dress and she gets ready. After seeing Luana in new dress, Duke said to Luana, that's more like it. It's about time you were separated from all that filth and grime. Luana talks in her mind, that's why he looked so disgusted when he turned away? Because I was dirty? Well, regardless of the reason, these are the nicest clothes I've worn since I've been here. Way nicer than anything I wore in the abandoned castle. And this was a nice gesture, so I should probably thank him. While she was thinking all of this, the Duke came close to her and Luana tried saying something to him. The Duke said yes? She said, oh, I wanted to thank you for, huh? The Duke came extremely close to her. She thinks in her mind, what is he doing? Eek. The Duke brushes her head with his hand and said, thanks are not necessary. A guard came and said, my lord? The Duke said, what is it? The guard said, the princess in the dungeon insists on speaking with you. Luana remembers in her head. Princess? Dungeon. Ingrid. Ingrid is locked in prison in dungeon. Both Luana and Duke went there. Luana, besides standing, the Duke thinks, ugh. Why did he drag me along? I hate this place. The Duke said to Ingrid, I understand you've requested my audience. Ingrid asked the Duke, what's the meaning of this? The Duke said, the meaning of what? Ingrid said, you imprison me down here without justification, and leave me here without once checking on me. Is this isolation meant to be some form of mental torture? I don't know what you're trying to achieve, but if you think this will break me, think again. The Duke said to Ingrid, very well. Then stay here and remain unbroken. Ingrid asks, what did you just say? The Duke said, was that why you asked to see me? To waste my time? The next time you're inclined to share such thoughts, do share them with my guards. Ingrid shouted, Luana. Luana said, I, Ingrid. Ingrid said to Luana, are you okay? He hasn't hurt you, has he? Or even? Luana thinks in her mind, even in a situation like this, she's still looking out for the welfare of someone else. She said to Ingrid, and no? He hasn't done anything. I'm fine. It's you who I'm worried, Abu. The Duke, while going, said to Luana, what are you doing over there? Come along. Luana replied, yes, sir. I'm coming. Luana said to Ingrid, I gotta go. Ingrid, hang in there just a little longer. While Luana is going, Ingrid shouted, Luana. After Luana left, Ingrid got confused. ABD said to herself, hang in there? What does that mean? While Luana and the Duke going, the Duke said to Luana, you must have forgotten. You're not free to do as you please. You answer to me, understood? Luana replied, I'm sorry. It won't happen again. The Duke handed over the cantern to Luana and said, here. Take this. She replied, yes, sir. Both of them started going upstairs. After a while walking, Luana asks the Duke, if you don't mind my asking, is food being served to the, royal prisoners? The Duke said, what, so they can be executed on a full stomach? Luana thinks in her mind, he's so ruthless. She said to the Duke, is there no other option? He replied, they are not worthy of life. She said, what if, The Duke said to Luana, you have too many questions. Why are you, hey? Luana asked the Duke, by any chance, are you hungry? Luana, while sitting on the chair, talks in her mind with gloomy expressions. A delicious dish, a ridiculously delicious dish. The Duke regarding Luana while looking at her thinks, why does it look like she's sitting there in the dark? Luana thinks with serious face, what really delicious dish can I make with these leftover ingredients? I can't just settle for something mediocre. With the stakes involved, I need to make this count. She remembers her conversation with the Duke. Luana said, hey. By any chance, are you hungry? The Duke replied, well, it is almost lunchtime. So I don't even understand why you're asking. You should know by now that when it's close to mealtime, you should start cooking. She thinks in her mind with annoying expression, this guy is so freaking annoying. She said, so listen, Luana shouted that for this meal, I have a request. Shout if you like the food I cook for you this time, then, let me cook for the royal family and, the maids. While the Duke stares at her, she thinks, shoot, did I cross the line? Was that too aggressive? Or did it sound too selfish? What if he decides to lock me up like Ingrid? What if he? The Duke asks her why. She replied, huh? Why, what? He said, why did you just ask that of me? They're the leaders of a conquered kingdom. They are to be executed. I thought you understood that. He asked so again, why would you want to feed them? What difference does it make whether they starve to death or lose their heads? And why do you care about them? While Luana is shocked by his words, he said, your father, the king, was the one who chose to banish you to that abandoned castle. And your sisters never protested on your behalf. Am I wrong? She replied, well, it's true that he was the one who abandoned me in that castle. But I never really knew him. And I only recently met my sisters, but none of that should matter. She said with a cheerful grin on her face, because no matter who you are, being hungry really sucks. Wouldn't you agree? She tells him further, plus, my motto is if you're gonna die tomorrow, eat something yummy today. By the way, I wasn't suggesting that we feed them anything fancy. Just something that can fill they. The Duke said, enough. You've made your point. I will grant you your request. Luana said, really? Thank you so much. The Duke said, however, this meal you prepare me must be so good that I'll be compelled to say that out loud. Now to the present. Luana stands up saying, aha. I got it. She talks in her mind, I got just the thing that'll make that stubborn Duke swoon. She started preparing food and explains the recipe first. Take a fresh, whole chicken and chop it up into smaller pieces. Then, soak the pieces in milk for a bit, a little trick to get rid of any gamey odor. After letting it soak, add salt and pepper, followed by white wine, garlic, and peppers to season the meat. Then I roll the pieces around in breadcrumbs. Now comes the most important part, hot oil. Oil is so expensive in this world, I rarely used it at my old place. But here in the royal castle, there's plenty of the stuff. Alrighty then. Time for the deep fry. The Duke, while sitting in his office and doing his work. He thinks in his mind, my duties here are almost over. I should be able to return home soon, and then I'll return with her back to the Empire. He remembers his conversation with Luana. Luana said, for this meal, I have a request. If you like the food I cook for you this time, then, let me cook for the royal family and, the maids. He talks in his mind, come to think of it, why on earth did I agree to that brazen request? Had someone else dared to confront me like that, I would have cut off that insolent tongue right there. It was amusing watching that little princess squirm as she was asking, but I shouldn't have agreed, While putting his hand on his face, he thinks, of course. I agreed because of her cooking. And I was curious. She sounded so confident about preparing something otherworldly. I had to sample what the witch had in mind. If it's that good, I'll bet it's a trick of some kind. Then I can simply enjoy the food and not keep my promise. While thinking, he hears knock knock on the door. He heard a voice saying, my lord? He said, enter. It's Luana. With a cheerful expression, she said, lunch is served. She said while serving the food on today's menu, fried chicken, potato wedges, and beer. Or as I like to call it, fried chicken and beer. The Duke asked, chicken and beer? She replied, yes. You'll love it. Chicken and beer goes so well together. She tells him further, I've marinated the chicken with my secret recipe, and fried the pieces twice to make them extra crispy. The Duke stares at her, and said she's soiled the clean clothes I provided her. I suppose it's a sign of how hard she worked on this meal. He said, I drink wine, not beer. Luana said, come on. Don't be like that. Just try this combo once. You won't regret it. Dig in before it gets cold. The Duke said, if it'll stop you from rambling on, I will. He stated, eating / While he's eating, Luana thinks, I wonder why he's not saying anything. While the Duke was drinking beer, the next moment he finds himself standing in the barley fields. Her said, a barley field? He returns to his senses, huh? He said, what? Luana replied, why yes? Luana think in her mind he's finally saying something. He said, what was, name? She replied, oh, it's fried chicken and beer and. He interrupted her and said, no, I mean your name. She said, and my name? It's Luana. And you know my last name, right? He said, I'll have to remember it. A guard walking carrying the food heard people's gossiping. The gossips were about the Duke and Luana. Hey, did you hear? That crazy Duke's taking interest in the abandoned princess. Is that right? Not only did he take her into his bedchamber, but now he won't even let her leave his side. His bedchamber? Really? But all the other princesses are locked away. I even heard that Princess Ingrid was thrown in the dungeon. I heard the same thing. And that's the most confusing part. If the Duke were to fall for anyone, I thought it'd be her, not some outcast princess. The guard carrying the food opens the door and throws the food in front of King and Queen. The previous king said, what is this? The guard replied, starting today, you'll be fed twice a day. Be grateful for the Duke's mercy. And he left. The king, who is Luana's father, said while questioning why the sudden mercy. I was certain he was trying to starve us to death. The queen, who is Luana's stepmother, replied, the rumors. They must all be true. He must be keeping company with that child. She said, yes. Maybe she has something to do with this. The king said, the abandoned princess? The queen said, yes, and perhaps we can use her to our advantage. Luana, while talking to the Duke, joyfully said, are you serious? The Duke said, stop asking me that. Why can't you accept what I tell you the first time I say it? She said, I'm sorry. I was so happy, I couldn't help it. She thinks in her mind, never in a million years did I think he'd actually follow through with my request. She thinks while the Duke is eating food, he never actually said it tasted good, so technically, I lost the bet. I guess he's still too proud to admit it. Well, whatever the reason, I'm glad you won't be starving anymore, Ingrid. Luana said to the Duke, you must really like the chicken. First for lunch, and then again for dinner? The Duke replied, is that a problem? While flustered, Luana said, and no, that's not what I meant. Regular fried chicken's great and all, but there's another fried chicken dish that's even tastier. The Duke asks, what other dish? She said, I call it seasoned fried chicken. He said, seasoned? So there are different kinds of fried chicken? Luana replied, saying, oh, there are plenty. There's one made with soy sauce, and another one prepared with fresh scallions and a side of honey mustard sauce. Oh, there's even one that's made with a cream sauce and shredded onions. The Duke then said with a scary expression, so what you're telling me right now is that you served me the most basic version of the fried chicken dish? Luana quickly said, please don't be mad. I had no choice. I couldn't make any of those other dishes. He said, why not? She said, we don't have all the ingredients here. He said, tell me what you need, and I'll get it. She said, for this particular seasoning I have in mind, I'll actually need some money. I've never gotten the seasoning right, so I don't know the exact ingredients I'll need. I'd have to shop around and see. And that takes time and, well, money. He then calls someone called Roan. He said Roan will help move it to wherever you need. He said while giving her money, is this enough? She replied, it's more than enough. She thinks in her mind maybe he's not that cruel and ruthless after all. The Duke shows knife and with a menacing look said these coins are to be used toward cooking concerns only. Use them for any other purpose. Luana said quickly, I wouldn't dream of doing that. I'll go check what we currently have stocked in the kitchen. And whatever else I need, I'll buy with the money you gave me. While going, Luana stops at the door. Oh, she said with a cheerful grin and said, Mr. Legion? I'm gonna cook you the most delicious seasoned chicken ever. Just you wait. The Duke and his guard gets shocked. He said, did she just call me Mr. Legion? While going, Luana was dancing and singing, la 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 la. Woohoo! She said to herself, first, I need to make gochujang. Then I'll need some soybean paste. She collided with someone while dancing and walking. She said, I'm sorry. I should have watched where I was going. The other person grabs Luana's hand and said, I found you, Miss Luana. Luana asked, you know who I am? The other person replied, of course I do. Who doesn't know who the wonderful Luana is? You're the kingdom's precious youngest princess. She said, apologies, I should introduce myself. My name is Layla, and I serve the king as his maid. She told Luana, we have little time, so I'll get to the point straight away. His Majesty wanted me to give you something. The next day. Today's menu, grilled ham and cheese sandwich, 2 eggs sunny side up, and a tomato salad with ricotta cheese served with a glass of yogurt drink. Both Luana and the Duke are eating. He thinks while looking at Luana, she's particularly quiet today. He said, hey. She replied, huh? Yes? He said, is there any more of this? She stands while saying, oh yes. Of course. I think I have a pretty good idea now of how much you eat per meal, Mr. Legion. The Duke said to Luana, I'm curious about something. She replied, yes? He said, exactly when did I give you permission to address me by my name? She said, pardon? She talks in her mind with choking expression, his name? Have I been calling him by his name this whole time? She was completely oblivious until this moment. She babbles and said, oh, haha. I thought maybe, you were bored? So, I don't know, I thought I'd, lighten the, While showing different expressions, she said, oh, that's right. You know what it was? When you asked me my name, I thought that, we were getting closer or something. So I guess I thought we could change up the way we address each other. She serves him food while trembling. The Duke then said, be careful with that plate. I don't really care what you call me, but I would care if you dropped my food. She said, yes, sir. Luana thinks in her mind, oh my God, what just happened? She thinks while dragging the serving cart in the hallway, I can't believe it. There's no way a cruel and pompous guy like him would let something like this slide. Is this all just a bad dream? He's already threatened to cut off body parts. I thought for sure he'd, cut off my tongue or something. But all he did was ask for more food. Is this all because of my cooking? She pictures the Duke in her mind and thinks, now that I think about it, he has been kinder recently. And a whole lot less irritable. My food has changed him. Is it possible? Someone said, Miss Luana. Luana gets startled and shouted, eek. Where did you come from? And, who are you? Layla said, don't worry, it's just me. Were you able to use what I gave you? Luana said, oh. So about that. While she was talking, someone came behind Luana and said, who are you speaking to? Luana quickly turns around and thinks while looking at the person, when did Sir Roan get here? She turns to Layla, she is already gone. She said, that's strange. There was a maid here just a second ago. Honest. She She said to Roan I was asking for tips about laundry and stuff because that nice dress that Mr. the dress that the Duke gave me got dirty. Roan replied, I see. Well, I came to tell you that the Duke would like that fried chicken dish for dinner again tonight. She said, oh, no problem. I'll get right on it. Luana closes the door and take a breath of peace. Phew. She puts her hand in her pocket and brings out a small bottle and a note saying add this to the Duke's meal. She thinks I'm guessing this is poison? Someone knocks on the door and said, excuse me, Miss Luana? You're not supposed to close the door. She said, oops, my bad. Sorry about that. It totally skipped my mind, haha. She think in her mind, what have I gotten myself into? I mean, seriously. This isn't fair. They never cared about me before, and now, I'm suddenly the most precious princess in the kingdom? What, did they think I'd feel special now that they need me? And of all things, they want me to poison someone? How could I poison the food of someone who enjoys eating it so much? I'm gonna throw the poison away. If I get caught with something like that, there's no way even this kinder, gentler Duke would look past it. She thinks while doing dishes, and besides, a minor character like me would never off a major character like him. Especially on the request of some absent father. Made up my mind. As soon as the opportunity presents itself, I'll just toss it out a window or something. After finishing, she said, easy peasy. After a while, while laying on her sleeping sofa, she thinks the opportunity never presented itself. The stupid guard kept his eye on me in the kitchen. Miss Luana! And that maid kept following me around when I left. She thinks I'll have to get rid of it first thing in the morning. Until then, I'd better make sure I don't lose it anywhere. While she was thinking, the Duke said, hey. He said, why do you seem so jumpy of late? What happened to that fearless vixen who handed me some beef jerky that day? While hearing that and looking the other way on her sofa, Luana thinks, why is he bringing that up all of a sudden? The Duke said, look, once I'm finished with my duties here, you will be relocated to the Empire as a prisoner of war. However, because you're essential to my efforts in hunting down the witch who cursed my family, once I get the Emperor's approval, you will be kept in my palace as my personal prisoner. So going forward, you'd be well advised to stop being so jumpy around me. After hearing that, Luana thinks in her mind, what is he? Is he scolding me for the way I've been behaving around him, or asking me to try to feel comfortable with him when we're together? He said, did you hear what I said? She thinks in her mind, please don't come here. Please don't come here. She said, why yes, I heard you. The Duke said while grabbing her blanket, then when someone is talking to you, you should look them in the eye. He yanked her blanket. Both of them fell down. The Duke was under Luana while Luana grabs the blanket. He said this again, princess? She thinks in her mind, why you're the one who pulled me onto you. She quickly gets away and said, I am sorry. I was twisted in my blanket, and when you yanked it away, I must have dashed. While all of this happened, the small bottle in Luana's pocket fell down. Both of them looks at that. Luana thinks in her mind, oh no. Both Luana and the Duke tries to reach to grab the small bottle first. But the Duke picks it first. Then Luana thinks in her mind, oh my god. The Duke said with a scary expression, poison? Luana said, I have no idea what that is. The Duke smirked and said, I find that hard to believe considering it just rolled out of your pocket. He said to her, apparently, all my efforts to try to make you feel more comfortable were nothing but opportunities to you. That was my oversight. I mustn't forget you're a witch. He opens up the bottle and started drinking from it. Luana said, no. This is all one big misunderstanding. She stopped in the middle and quickly grabs the bottle from him. She said, what are you doing? She looks at the bottle and it's empty. She said, why on earth did you? The Duke said, unfortunately for you, this won't kill me. I'm immune to most types of poison. She grabs him by his shirt's collar and yelled, that doesn't mean you should drink it. That was so reckless. And I was only hiding it so I could throw it away later. I would have explained, that's no way to treat your body. While they were in middle of their arguing and Gyurid burst opens the door. He said, "Is everything okay, my lord? I heard loud noises coming from your quarters. In guard's point of view, that's no way to treat your body." The guard said, "Oops. I'm sorry, sir. Please enjoy the rest of your evening." He slams the door and went. The Duke said, "What was that about?" He said, "Damn." Luana quickly gets away and said, "I'm sorry. I was so shocked by what you did, I just dash." The Duke said, "That liquid, it wasn't poison." He pushes Luana and said, "Away with you." Luana said, "Hey." The Duke said, "Get out. We'll discuss this matter at a later time." While outside the door, Luana was standing confused. "Ha!" A guard said to Luana, "I heard something interesting was going on, so I rushed over." "Why aren't you in the Duke's room?" She replied, "Something interesting? I don't know if I'd call it that." Lugard came, looks at him, and said, "Why is he here?" He said to Luana, "The Duke has asked me to find you alternate accommodations. Follow me." The other guard, "Well, it beats having to sleep out in the hall, eh?" Luana asks Lugard, "Is Mr. Legion okay?" The Duke in his room, looking at the empty bottle, thinks this was an aphrodisiac. A powerful one. It's well concocted and pure. There's no way that dull-witted princess could craft something like this. TCH. He thinks I was aware of the rumors about us, but I paid them no mind because they were of little consequence. But whoever sent this believed those rumors. He snaps his fingers. A person appears and said, "You summoned me?" The Duke throws the empty bottle at his and he catches it. The Duke said to him, "Find out who's behind this." He said, "As you wish, my lord." After he left, the Duke thinks I have my suspicions, but I need to know for sure. Is this how you thank me for sparing your life? The next day, Luana was cutting tomatoes when she heard of the execution. While stunned, she asked, "Executed?" The guard said, "Yes, the king and queen were executed this morning, and their bodies are being displayed in front of the palace." Luana said, "That seems so sudden." While scratching his head, the guard said, "I thought so too. That's why I rushed here as soon as I heard." While Luana is confused, the guard asks, "Do you have any idea what prompted this?" Luana remembers the last night incident with the Duke in her mind. While seething and panicking, she said, "Well, I..." While looking at the food, guard asked, "Oh, is that the Duke's breakfast?" Luana replied, "Yes, it is." She thinks in her mind, I made something mild for him, something that would be gentle on his stomach, considering he swallowed whatever that was yesterday. While laughing, the guard said, "I'm surprised you had the energy to cook this morning after everything that happened last night." With a frustrated look, Luana thinks in her mind, "Geez, this guy's turning out to be a major tool." The guard cheerfully asked, "Can I help with anything?" "Huh!" The guard said, "I figured you wouldn't want to see him right now. He said so I can take his meal to him for you." While confused and looking at him, Luana thinks in her mind, is he being sympathetic toward me? Poor child. While imagining the guard's perspective, she thinks in her mind, the youngest princess of a seized kingdom who just lost her beloved parents. She thinks, well, he's not wrong. I just feel sort of uncomfortable seeing Legion right now. While looking away, Luana said, "Actually, that'd be great." The guard shamelessly asked, "What do I get in return?" Luana said, "Well, I could give you some food." The guard cheerfully said, "Yay. Thank you." Luana thinks in her mind, I guess he was just after the food. After the guard went to deliver the food, Luana cleans the dishes. She said to herself, "It sure is quiet." With a sad face, she thinks in her mind, executed. While cooking the food, she thinks in her mind, it feels surreal. I don't even feel sad. She thinks, I guess it's 'cause they're not my real parents, and considering the way they treated me, it's not surprising. While removing the liquid from beans, she thinks, but I am worried about her. I'm worried about Ingrid. Meanwhile, Ingrid slams the prison wall. She thinks in her mind all this. While remembering herself posting the letter, she thinks, over a simple letter? She thinks it was just a letter respectfully declining an unwanted proposal. While remembering her happy family, she thinks, but because of that, our kingdom was reduced to ashes, my sisters and I were imprisoned, and my parents were. While gritting her teeth in anger, she slams her hands on the wall and said, "This is unforgivable." After a while, the guard serves the food to the Duke. He said, "Your breakfast, my lord." While frowning, the Duke looks at him and asked, "What are you doing here? Where's the girl?" The guard said, "She asked me to bring it to you." The Duke asked, "Why? What is she doing right now?" While remembering Luana rinsing the beans, he said, "I believe she's rinsing some beans, my lord." While looking at the angry Duke, he thinks in his mind, maybe I shouldn't have offered to help. His glare is about to burn down the door. The Duke then said, "Understood." The guard said, "Yes, sir." Today's menu is pot-au-feu, a slow-stewed dish of beef, potatoes, carrots, tomatoes, and bouquet garni. The Duke said, "This looks boiled." The guard said, "I believe it was, sir." While looking at the food, the Duke thinks in his mind meat is normally grilled. I have heard that boiling it allows the meat to absorb the flavor of the other ingredients, though I've never been able to taste it before. He starts eating and thinks in his mind, it doesn't seem as if she used a lot of seasoning for this. He thinks in his mind, the slow-stewed beef melts in my mouth, and the carrots seem sweet, while the potatoes are soft, and then a tartness that must come from the tomatoes to finish it off. Then there's this warm, but flavorful broth to wash it all down. While munching on food, he thinks in his mind, I never knew eating could be so satisfying. I might have stayed the execution had I eaten this first. After the Duke finished eating, the guard said, "Let me clear this for you, my lord." The guard walks away with the serving cart. Then the Duke thinks in his mind she asked him to deliver the food while she stayed in the kitchen. While tapping in the table, he reads papers and thinks in his mind, I wonder if it's because of what occurred last night, or perhaps because of this morning's execution. He thinks, no matter. With Dark Crow tracking her, there will be nothing she can hide from me. Meanwhile, back at the Empire, the Emperor is in the flower garden. He asked the guards, so Legion has executed the king and queen? He said then he must be nearly finished. I suppose his return is imminent. The Emperor asked, and my request? The guard replied he will be bringing it. The Emperor cuts a flower and said, what fortunate news. While holding the flower, he said then, shall we ready ourselves to greet the Empire's war hero? While rinsing the beans, Luana thinks in her mind, okay, so I'll soak these for 8 hours and then steam them. I need to look for some cloth I can steam with. While she was thinking, the Duke came and said, You! What are you doing in here? Luana got suddenly scared and splashes water on the Duke. While the Duke is wiping the water drops from his face, she thinks in her mind, what is he doing here? While shocked, she said, what are you? No, I was just, the BA, did it get on you? I'm sorry. She said, was there something wrong with the food? The Duke said, no. He said, although I didn't like who brought it. Luana gets stunned after hearing him. She said, my apologies. The Duke said, it's fine, go pack your things. Luana asked, what? The Duke said, it's time to return to the Empire. Oh. The Duke asked, what is it? While pointing towards the seasonings and other ingredients, she asked, is it okay to pack food? Oh, and I have leftover beef jerky and fruit jam that I made some time ago. While taking a sigh, he said, if you wish, but there's nothing else you need to take? She asked what could possibly be more important than food. While turning, the Duke said, never mind. I shouldn't have asked. While the Duke is going, Luana thinks in her mind, wait, if we're going to the Empire, I wonder. After some time, Ingrid is riding a horse while guards are present besides her. Luana looks at her with a happy face and thinks in her mind, yay, Ingrid's coming with us. While looking at her, she thinks, I wish I could go talk to her, but there are too many guards around her. While she was thinking, the Duke asked, will it be much longer? She turns her head and said, oh, I'm almost done. She said, here you go. Today's menu, cheese beef jerky with whole wheat bread and a side of fig jam, along with a bowl of steaming corn soup. While sitting, Luana asked the Duke, "Are you sure you're okay with this type of food?" The Duke said, "What did I tell you before?" He starts eating. He said, "If the food isn't prepared by you, then I'd rather eat dirt. This is fine." Luana blushed and thinks in her mind that's nice of him to say, but it's probably just because of his curse. She said, "So, as soon as we reach the Empire, are we going straight to your home?" The Duke asked HM. "What are you saying?" He said, "We must greet the Emperor first." Luana asked. "Me?" The Duke then said, "I thought I made this clear before. I need to report what I've chosen from the spoils." Luana said, "Oh, okay. I must have forgotten that part." She thinks in her mind, and here I was hoping for some time alone. While she was thinking, the Duke said, "While we're on the topic, listen well." With a serious face he said, "Do not fall in love with His Majesty." Luana asked, "Fall in love?" The Duke said, "Yes." She said, "Why would I fall for the Emperor, for His Majesty? What kind of girl do you take me for?" He said, "It doesn't matter what kind of girl you are. Where he's concerned, they all fall for him. Though I'm sure my warning won't stop you." While annoyed, Luana thinks in her mind, "Well, then why'd you even bring it up?" She asked, "How could you be so sure? You don't know my type." While snickering, he asked, "Aren't you confident?" Luana said, "Of course I am." While standing up, he said then, "If you truly resist his charms, I shall reward you." They reached the Empire, where they were welcomed with cheers and trumpets are playing. People are gathered to see them. People are shouting, "Wow! Hooray for the Empire!" While looking at the audience, the Emperor said, "Welcome back!" The Emperor said, "Quite the fanfare, wouldn't you say? As you can see, I was not the only one who eagerly anticipated your arrival." While the Duke and others are standing behind him, he said, "I hope your journey here was not too arduous." While looking charming, the Emperor said, "Welcome to the Empire." With a serious face, Ingrid said, "I do not wish to hear those words from you." The Emperor asked, "Have I said something wrong?" Ingrid yelled, "How dare you speak to me in such a manner after you destroyed my home?" The Emperor said, "Well," he said with an ominous look on his face, "perhaps things would have turned out differently had you accepted my proposal." Ingrid grits her teeth and don't say anything. Luana thinks in her mind, "Oh wow! A bystander's perspective. This guy's ruthless." The Emperor said, "Sir Legion?" Legion asked, "Your Majesty?" While grinning, Emperor said, "You've done a wonderful job. I'm very proud of you." Legion said, "You flatter me, sire." Emperor walks up to Luana and asked, "Oh? And what's this thing?" While Luana is confused, Legion said, "If you recall, sire, before I set out to conquer the kingdom, you promised me something." While the Emperor is listening, he said, "Once I accomplished my mission, I could claim one thing from the spoils." The Emperor said, "I see, and this is what you've chosen?" He said, "Very well." He then asked Luana, "How exactly did you manage to gain the favor of this particularly disagreeable man?" Luana replied, It's my..." The guards pushes the chefs back and said to them, "Everyone, step back. That's an order." Confused, Legion asked the Emperor, "What exactly did you have in mind by doing this, Your Majesty?" While walking close to Legion, the Emperor said, "What do you mean?" He said, "I don't see what's wrong with asking the Duke's woman to cook for us." Legion said, "It's not what you think." The Emperor asked, "It's not?" While staring on Legion's face, Emperor said, "It's odd, isn't it? That a man who cannot taste anything would bring a young lady who, besides cooking, has no other talent?" Legion said, "When she cooks, I can taste her food." Emperor gets shocked after hearing that. He said, "I see." While patting Legion's arm, he said, "Yes, you do seem to have put on some weight. I must say, you look much better now. You were far too skinny before." While turning, he said, "Very well. If that's the case, as promised, you may keep her." Legion bowed his head and said, "Thank you, Your Majesty." Then the Emperor said to Legion, "But do bring her around once in a while." After hearing that, Legion flinches and he said it could be dangerous. While turning his head towards Legion, the Emperor asked while grinning, dangerous? He asked, is it perhaps because the princess is somehow related to your curse? Meanwhile, in the kitchen, other chefs are confused. They are talking to each other. Who is this girl? What's going on? While Luana is carefully thinking. She thinks in her mind, I never thought I'd be cooking at the Imperial Palace. She remembers the Emperor in her mind saying a good cook. Let's put that to the test, shall we? Excuse me? While looking through the things she thinks in her mind, let's see. Guess I won't need to worry about ingredients. And the oven's gigantic. She grabs different things from the shelves and put them in basket. While looking at the ingredients she put in basket, she thinks in her mind, I only have one chance to impress the Emperor. And since only stewed or grilled meat is common in this era, something fried should be interesting enough to capture his attention. She thinks in her mind, but I don't want to serve the same thing to Legion again. She then reaches her hand and grabs the meat. She thinks in her mind, I got it. She then starts cooking and talks in her mind. She tells, I'll chop the pork into bite-sized pieces. Then I'll rub some salt and pepper into it before adding in some minced garlic. While the other chefs are peeking, she tells in her mind, now for the batter. I'll just mix some flour with water, beer, and oil. Okay, I'll let that sit while I finish prepping the rest of the ingredients. I'll stir-fry everything until it's cooked before adding in a mixture of sugar, lemon juice, and a cornstarch slurry. She said to one of the chefs, please help me cool this down. She replied, Oh, okay. She then tells in her mind, finally coat the meat in batter and… While the other chefs are astonished, she said they'll need to be fried twice. Each needs a certain amount of time. After finishing, she tells in her mind, and now the sweet and sour pork is finished. She tries some and thinks in her mind while enjoying it, it'd taste even better with some soy sauce, but I doubt anyone will complain about that. She then puts a tower-sized serving for the Duke and thinks in her mind, let's prepare the Duke's portion first and leave just enough for the Emperor. While covering the pork, she said, and now it's ready to be served. She then said to the chef, thank you so much for helping me. While chuckling, she said, I'm sorry for barging into your kitchen like that, and don't worry, I'll clean this up as soon as I get back. While going, she said, see you soon. Luana brings the food to serve. The Emperor gets surprised and he said, That was faster than expected. While the other chef is serving the food, Luana said, this dish doesn't take long to prepare, and one of the Imperial chefs helped me. She said, please eat before it gets cold. Fried food tastes the best when it's hot. The Emperor and Legion's serving got switched. While getting chills, she thinks in her mind, the plates got switched. Emperor asked Luana, fried food? While babbling, she said, this dish is called sweet and sour pork. It's pork coated with seasoned batter and fried in hot oil. While freaking out in her mind, she thinks, what do I do? That's nowhere near enough for the Duke. While looking at the food, the Emperor said, sweet and sour pork. Sir Legion. Legion starts eating. He said, yes, Your Majesty. While Legion takes a bite of the food while Luana is looking at him. He then said, it's not poisoned, Your Majesty. While Luana is saying, I'd never do that. Emperor said, that's good. While taking a sigh, Luana thinks in her mind, there's nothing I can do about Legion's portion right now. I'll just have to prepare another batch when I get the chance. Then the Emperor asked, and what is this? Luana replied, that's a dipping sauce for the meat. Or you can also pour the sauce on top if you prefer a softer texture. The Emperor before taking a bite then. The Emperor takes a bite of the food. After taking a bite, his heart starts racing because the food is delicious. He said, Princess? Luana said, yes, Your Majesty. The Emperor said while laughing, come visit every now and then. Luana said, okay. She thinks in her mind, phew. I was afraid he was gonna say something else. Then Legion said, Your Majesty? The Emperor said yes? Legion said with a straight face, that's my plate. After hearing that, both the Emperor and Luana are surprised. While clearing his throat, Emperor asked, this is yours? Legion said yes, your majesty. The plates have been switched. The Emperor laughs. Ha ha! He said, no wonder. I thought this portion was rather large. By all means, take it. While switching the plates, Legion said, thank you, your majesty. Thank you, your majesty. Emperor said to Luana, I assumed it was a gesture of respect from the princess toward the Emperor. While sweating, Luana laughs, oh ha ha ha. Emperor then said, Princess? Luana said while jolting, yes? The Emperor asked, would you be able to prepare some more of this? He said, I also happen to enjoy this unique dish, but I've had to switch plates. Luana said, of course. Please wait a moment. While she dashes, she said, another batch coming right up. While laughing, Emperor said, a generous batch, please. After that, while sitting in a carriage, Luana takes a sigh of relief. She said, I had no idea His Majesty could eat so much. She said he must have really liked that sweet and sour pork. While Legion is looking frustrated, she said, and he wasn't as scary as I thought he'd be. Legion said, so, have you fallen for him? Luana pauses after hearing him. Luana said, huh? What? No way. She thinks in her mind, oh, is it because of that bet we made earlier? While staring at Legion, Luana thinks in her mind, don't get me wrong, the Emperor is a total hottie, but he's the male lead of the story. Of course, he'd be gorgeous. But if I had to choose... Legion asked, are you certain? While closing her eyes, she said, I'm positive. She said, he's not even my type. If anything, you're closer to my type than he is. Legion gets surprised after hearing that. While quickly looking away, he said, you have questionable taste. It's probably because you're a witch. Luana said, geez. Why do you always have to connect everything to that? It won't hurt you to just accept my words at face value. The Emperor looks at their carriage while standing in balcony. He recalls his conversation with Legion. He said to Legion, is it perhaps because the princess is somehow related to your curse? Legion said, your majesty's very perceptive. There's no point in hiding it, so I may as well tell you. Apparently, she's a witch in training. He said, she says she knows nothing about my specific curse, but she may have useful information, so I plan on keeping her close. While looking at him, Emperor said, I see. While looking worried, Legion said, your majesty. While grinning, the Emperor said, don't worry. While I am fascinated to learn that she's a witch, I'm not so cruel as to steal something that my loyal soldier worked so hard to earn. He asked, but you are certain there is nothing else between you? First, Legion didn't say anything. After a slight pause, he said, yes, I'm sure. Emperor then remembers in his memories. While Luana is going, Legion looks towards her and looks a little sad. While laughing, the Emperor said, even the fiercest of animals can be tamed through their stomachs. It seems things are going to become rather interesting. Luana and Legion stops at a manor. While standing in front of it, Legion said, this is where you'll be staying. Luana said, wow. She thinks in her mind, the last place I lived was an abandoned castle, but it was still a castle. But this palace is way nicer. While Legion is going, she asked him, where are you going? While going, Legion said, that's none of your concern. She then thinks in her mind, none of my. How rude. A butler came and said, welcome, my lady. Please follow me. I'll show you to your room. Butler at Duke Legion's palace. Kane. He said, oh. Let me carry that. While walking, he said to Luana, please allow me. This is no job for a lady. Luana said, but still. She thinks in her mind, I feel bad making an elderly man carry my stuff. Kane opens the door and said, your room, my lady. While standing inside the room, Luana said, wow. Kane said, your maid is due to arrive tomorrow. In the meantime, if you need anything, Please feel free to call upon me. Luana said. Thank you? Kane said. Please, there's no need to thank me. While looking pleased, he said, I'm merely doing my job. Luana thinks in her mind. I noticed earlier, but didn't want to say anything. But why does he look so happy? While looking happy, Kane said, His Grace, the Duke may seem cold at times, but he is truly a warm person. Luana gets an intuition, but she didn't said anything. Huh! He said. He's incredibly kind to the people he cares about. And he's more than just a handsome face. He's an excellent swordsman as well. He said. Also, as you can see, he's a rather wealthy man and he's quite gennaro. Luana interrupts him and shouted. Stop! She then said, I think I need some rest. Kane said. Oh dear, my sincerest apologies. Please make yourself at home. I'll take my leave now. After Kane left, Luana looks exhausted while standing. While grabbing her head with both of her hands, she thinks in her mind. There's seriously nothing going on between me and Legion. She dashes and jumps on bed. While telling the novel story, she said Legion's the deuteragonist who's meant to fall in love with Ingrid. She said, I'm just some poor nobody from another world who somehow ended up here. While looking gloomy, she thinks in her mind, what's the point of being good-looking or having excellent sword skills anyway? For all I know, I may wind up on the other end of that sword. While blinking, she thinks, but I'm so tired. She fell asleep. She wakes up in the middle of the night. She rises up from the bed and thinks in her mind, what time is it? I must have fallen asleep as soon as my head hit the pillow. While sitting, she said, oh. While her stomach is growling and rumbling, she said, I'm so hungry. Luana went outside of her room. She peeks from the door into the kitchen. While sneaking into the kitchen, she thinks in her mind. Good, no one's here. While looking for ingredients, she thinks in her mind, I was gonna wait till morning to eat, but this stupid stomach of mine had other plans. She found some things and thinks in her mind. I can't make anything too complicated right now, so I'll just have to make do with something simple. She diced up some onions and cooked them until they were caramelized. Then she took some bread, removed the crust, and boiled it. Once it started to thicken, she added some milk, a pinch of salt, and pepper. And voila! After she finished cooking, while looking at the porridge, she said, a nice, comforting bowl of bread porridge. She starts eating. While eating, she said, Yum! Not bad for a midnight snack. After a bang noise, she paused, startled. While trembling, she said, Is someone there? She looked around but saw no one. She walks to outside. She was trembling while holding the porridge. She thinks in her mind. It was probably just the wind, but to be on the safe side. She then sits on a sideway bench and thinks in her mind, okay, positive thoughts. It's a beautiful night and the breeze feels really nice. Legion comes to her from out of nowhere. She asked, Mr. Legion? She gasped, seeing him standing there. Legion asked, It's late. Why are you out here? She said, I was hungry. He said, Then you should have summoned one of the servants to bring you something. He replied sternly. She said, I didn't want to trouble anyone in the middle of the night. She wondered why he was in full uniform at this hour. Did he just get back from the Imperial Palace? Legion also sits on bench. Luana asked, Were you able to eat dinner, Mr. Legion? He said, Not yet. Then Luana said, It seems like it. She said while offering her porridge, Would you like some of this? It tastes better than it looks. Legion asked, Didn't you make that for yourself? She said, You know I can always make more. While passing the porridge to him, she said, Have some. Legion stirs the porridge. Legion recalls his memories of when he was young. After he dropped the food, Kane said, Master. While Legion is coughing. Legion said angrily, I'd rather eat poison than this. At least that way, I wouldn't have to suffer anymore. Kane said, I understand, but you must eat. Please take another bite. While slamming his hand on table, he said, "You think I don't know that?" He said, "Bring me a meal I can drink instead. That way, I can get it over with quickly." While eating porridge, he thinks in his mind, "This reminds me of the sludge he brought later." While taking a sip, he thinks in his mind, "But I know it's not." While Legion is eating porridge, Luana asked, "It's good, right?" She thinks in her mind, "I was afraid he'd turn it down since it isn't the fanciest of meals." "Look at him go," she observed. "Well, considering he only ate some jerky on our trip here, and the fact that he skipped dinner tonight, the taste of other people's food must be even worse than I thought." She thinks in her mind, living a life where he'd rather starve than eat. "I can't think of an unhappier way of living." She then said, "Mr. Legion, don't skip your meals anymore, okay? I'll cook you delicious meals from now on." She joyfully said, "I'll be sure to put some meat on those bones of yours." While imagining a witch in his mind, he said, That's exactly what a witch would say. Let's fatten you up so that you're plump enough to eat." Luana startled and said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Isn't that what witches do? Fattening people up before eating them?" She said, "Are you, with all the delicious food in this world, why would anyone ever eat people?" He then said, "That is exactly what a witch would say." While raising her hand in a pinky promise pose, she said, "Okay, then let's make a deal. She reaches her hands to his hand if I continue to cook for you." While linking her pinky finger to his pinky finger, she said, "And you eat everything I make, I promise not to eat you." Legion gets surprised by this gesture. First, he hesitates to say anything. While pulling his hand, he said, "Don't touch my hand, as you please." While feeling awkward, Luana said, "Oh, sorry." Legion blushed. While sulking, Luana thinks in her mind, "Did I cross the line?" Legion said, "Remember the bet we made on our way to the Empire?" While Luana is looking, he said, "I said I'd reward you if you could resist His Majesty's charms. And seeing as you have," he said, "the kitchen in the annex is yours." He said, "You'll need it to cook breakfast tomorrow morning anyway." Luana said, "Thank you, Mr. Legion." While both of them are talking to each other, Cain is looking at them from a distance while hiding behind a tree. The next day, while angrily, head chef said, "What did you just say?" The other chef said, "The Duke has informed us that we no longer need to prepare his meals." The head chef at Duke Legion's palace weighed. He said, "That's impossible. Not when I was about to serve him a meal I think he'll finally enjoy." The other chef said, "There isn't much that I can." He interrupts her and said, "Then does he plan to never eat again?" The other chef said, "Well, I've been told someone else is to prepare his meals from now on." Meanwhile, Luana is in kitchen preparing something. She tastes and said, It's perfect." After she finished preparing food, she puts the food in the serving cart. She thinks in her mind, "I thought I'd be late, but I finished just in time. Is someone there?" She glanced around. Cain came and said, "So this is where you were, my lady." Luana said, "Oh, hello." Cain said, "I couldn't find you in your room." Luana interrupts him and delightfully said, "Perfect timing." Cain said, "Pardon?" She said, "Could you tell me where Mr. Legion usually has his meals?" Cain hesitates before saying. The other chef said to the head chef, "Chef." While following the head chef, he said, "Let's return to the kitchen, She may be from a conquered kingdom, but she's still a princess." He said, "Plus, she's already garnered the Duke's favor. It's best that we focus on our own war." Head chef interrupts him and said, "I am trying to do my job." With a serious face, he said, "As one of the best chefs in the Empire, it is my job to prepare meals for the Duke." He said, "For the past 5 years, I have used all my knowledge and passion to cook for the Duke. However, the only thing he ever said was, 'Terrible. This tastes like garbage. Is this dirt?' He said to think that all my efforts would be pushed aside by love. He said, 'This is unacceptable. I must see this for myself.'" "Chef!" While Kane is pushing the serving cart, Luana asked, "What do you mean Mr. Legion doesn't eat breakfast?" Kane said yes, he dislikes eating in general, but mornings are particularly bad. Though I suppose there are many people who have little appetite in the morning. While tilting her head, Luana asked, "Ah, really?" Kane said, "In the Duke's case, yes." Luana thinks in her mind, that's strange. He always had such big breakfasts before we came here. Kane knocks the door and said, "It's Kane, my lord." "Legion is changing in his room," he said, "come in." Luana comes in the room and said, "Your breakfast is here, Mr. Legi." She looks at Legion changing his shirt and gets startled. She quickly turns her head to the other side and shouted, "I'm sorry." Legion said, "It's fine. Is that my breakfast?" While being nervy, Kane said, "Yes, sir. I know how you feel about breakfast, but Miss Luana works so hard on this, so perhaps." Legion said, "Bring it." Kane gets surprised. While Legion is sitting, he said, "Oh. Why, yes, sir. Today's menu is a soufflé pancake, grilled sausages wrapped in bacon, a cranberry cheese salad, and a cup of warm milk tea." While Legion is staring at the food, Kane said, "Ah, this dish is." Luana asked, "Oh, can I turn around now?" She turns her head and happily said, "This is called a soufflé pancake. It's much softer than a regular pancake 'cause I mixed in some meringue into the batter." Kane thinks in his mind, well, it's certainly a unique dish and it does look appetizing, but the Duke doesn't. Legion starts eating. While Luana is grinning and Kane is confused, Legion eats. While eating, he said, "Tastes good, huh?" "Yes." While being surprised, Kane thinks in his mind, I knew there was something special between them, but. Kane remembers in his mind last night following Luana. In the kitchen and also in the garden. He overcame with joy. While sniffling, he thinks in his mind he did look as if he'd gained some weight. But to think it was all due to the power of love. While he is talking, Luana said to Legion, "Make sure to stir the tea before you drink it." While pushing the serving cart in the hallway, Luana thinks in her mind while singing. She thinks, I wonder what I should make for lunch. I'll think it over while I eat the portion I set aside for myself. She stopped after seeing someone standing in the hallway. While confused, she looks at him from behind. She asked him, "Excuse me? Who are you?" Wade quickly turns around and comes in front of Luana. Luana gets startled. Eek. Wade bowed his head and said, "I am Wade, the head chef of the manor." While stuttering, Luana said, "Oh, you're the head chef. What, can I do for you?" Wade said, "I have a request." Luana asked, "A request?" He said, "Yes. When I heard that the Duke had brought someone else to prepare his meals, I refused to believe it. I had to see it for myself. But then, just now..." He remembers in his head sneaking on Legion eating while Kane and Luana are standing there. "Tastes good, huh?" "Yes." He gets shocked after hearing that. He then shouted, "I challenge you as a chef!" While confused, Luana said, "Oh, Wade said, "If you do not accept, I will never be able to move past this situation." Luana thinks in her mind, What should I do?" Henry also came there. He hears all of this. While grinning, Henry said, "Oh. Sounds like something fun's about to happen?" While dragging Lugard, he said, "Can Lugard and I join as well? You'll need judges anyway." Luana asked Henry. Wade said, "Of course. No one could impart fairer judgment than the knights. I humbly request you be our judges." Henry said, "Perfect. We had free time anyway." While freaking out, Luana thinks in her mind, what about my opinion, guys? The other chef said, "There's no need to feel pressured into accepting the challenge, my lady." While bowing his head, he said, "My sincere apologies, Miss Luana. I'm Garth, the sous chef of the manor." Luana said, "Oh, right. Hello." He said, "Again, please ignore the challenge. In fact, I'd like to respectfully apologize on behalf of the..." Wade shouted, "Garth." Garth said, "The head chef is simply curious. While picturing the Duke in his mind, he said, "You see, for years he has been unable to prepare a dish that can satisfy the Duke. But then he heard that you had somehow accomplished that feat. He said he merely wanted to know what food was capable of moving the Duke's heart." Luana said, "I see." He said, "Regardless, this was reckless and rude of him. I'll drag him away somehow, so please forgive us." Luana said, "While wait." Garth and Wade stops after hearing that. With a serious look on her face, she said, "I accept your challenge." Meanwhile, in the study, while standing in front of the mirror, Legion remembers in his mind Emperor saying, "Yes, you do seem to have put on some weight." Kane saying he did look as if he'd gained some weight. Legion wondered, "Did I really gain that much?" While preparing food, Luana rushes. While staring at her, Wade thinks in his mind, "I wonder, what exactly was she thinking back there?" He recalls the time when Luana accepted his challenge. Luana said, "I accept your challenge." Garth said, "What?" Luana said, "But I have one condition. Since this is a competition, we should both cook the best dish we can offer." She said also, "Having an even number of judges doesn't exactly work, so would you be able to recruit one more judge, Henry?" Henry said, "Of course." After inhaling, she said, "All right, let's do this then, chef." While preparing food, Wade thinks in his mind, "Frankly, that woman wasn't obliged to accept my challenge. I practically begged her to. And given how favored she is by the Duke, there is no doubt that she could have used her authority to summon the guards on me." He thinks, but instead, she took the initiative to set a theme and request an additional judge. She made this into a true competition, one where the results will be indisputable. Kane is also present there as an additional judge. While smiling, he thinks in his mind, "Understand now. It wasn't just love that compelled the Duke to designate her as his personal chef." While feeling enthused, he thinks, "I need to do my best as well." Garth said while looking at Wade, "I think he's making Chateaubriand." Luana asked while preparing her dish, "Chateaubriand, what?" Garth said, "You've never heard of it? It's a steak dish made with the most tender part of the tenderloin, the head chef's specialty." Garth asked, "But what is it that you're making?" Luana said, "Oh, haha. Well." While grinning, she said, "Just a little something I have up my sleeve." Wade presents his dish to the judges. While gazing, Henry said, "This looks amazing." As expected from the head chef. Wade turns and looks where Luana is and thinks in his mind, "I've truly outdone myself this time. This has to be the best Chateaubriand I've ever made. I'm certain I shall win wit. Whoa!" While looking at Wade's dish, Luana said, "Your dish looks delicious." She asked, "Can I try a bite after the judges, chef?" Wade said, "I suppose you may." He thinks in his mind, "This isn't the reaction I expected." He thinks, "Is she that unbothered by my cooking? Or is it perhaps?" He then said, "I would like to see what you've prepared first, Miss Luana." Luana said, "Oh, of course. I made." She presents her prepared dish. Wade said, What in the world is this?" Luana said, "Carbonara fried chicken. After giving it some thought, I realized chicken is what I do best." While all of them are surprised, she said, "But since this is a competition, I thought I'd switch it up from what I would normally make." She said to Wade, "Let me serve some of it to you now. It's much better to eat while it's hot." There we go. Wade thinks in his mind, carbonara sauce on chicken? Isn't it meant to be used for pasta sauce? And I've never seen a chicken dish that resembles hers. Luana offers him a serving. She said while smiling, "You should try some too, chef." Wade looks surprised. He takes a bite and gets startled by the food. He thinks in his mind the flavor. One bite into the chicken's crispy exterior, and the flavor explodes in your mouth, perfectly complementing the smooth and savory carbonara sauce coating. While the judges are eating, he thinks in his mind not only that. The combination of the onion's sweetness and the black pepper's spiciness reduces the heaviness of the cream, while adding an extra layer of flavor. Henry joyfully said, "Phew, that was good. I think it's time we move on to judge. Wade interrupts him and said there's no need. He said I lost? While Henry is frozen and Luana is confused, he said I never realized that cooking could be like this. He bowed his head and said I apologize for troubling you with this competition when my ability lacks so deeply compared to yours. I accept any punishment you deem fit for my transgression. While overwhelmed by his words, Luana thinks in her mind, isn't he overreacting? It's not like I invented this dish. She said to Wade, please raise your head. This wasn't my intention when I accepted your request. He said, but still. Luana said, well, if that's how you really feel, then how about you help me in the kitchen from now on? While jolting, he asked, you want me to help you? She said, yes. I only just arrived, so I don't know much about the food here in the Empire. But you do. You've been cooking here for a long time, and I've been told you're one of the best chefs out there. So, she said, I really want to learn from you. Is that okay? While smiling, Wade said, yes. I would be more than happy to teach you what I know. Henry said, humph, we didn't even get to judge the dishes. Lugard said it's good enough that it ended peacefully. It seems they have a mutual understanding now. Kane said, what a relief. I was worried things would turn out for the worst. Kane thinks in his mind, I'm happy you were able to work this out in your own way, Miss Luana. 1 month later. Luana joyfully shouted, wow! It's a success! Wade asked, did we get it right this time? While nodding, Luana said we did. I mean, we can't use any of this right now, but we're on the right path. We'll have the perfect bean paste in just a matter of time. She thinks in her mind, and I've finally succeeded in making soy sauce. While hugging the jar, she thinks in her mind it was a struggle finding the perfect pot to ferment the beans, but I guess anything's possible with time and money. She thinks in her mind, and once I've got that down, I'm gonna start working on chili paste so I can finally make kimchi. Then I'll be able to make so many more dishes. Kimchi pancakes, kimchi fried rice, kimchi stew. I can almost taste it. She was drooling while imagining different dishes in her mind. Wade said, Miss Luana? You're drooling. Luana said, oh, right. Wade. While getting startled, Wade said, yes? While shaking Wade's hand, Luana said, thank you for making this with me. I wouldn't have gotten this far without your help. Wade looks happy after hearing that. While scratching his head, he said, no, it's nothing. I hardly did anything at all, really. Legion in his room saw both of them. He said, Kane? While bowing his head, Kane replied, yes, Your Grace. He said, remind me, how old was the head chef again? Kane replied, he's still in his 20s, sir. Quite young, but his talent was astounding enough to have been hired all those years ago. Legion said, right. Walking to his chair, he thinks in his mind, I remember paying him a generous salary considering he was a so-called culinary prodigy, though that turned out to be meaningless. While sitting on his chair, he thinks in his mind those two share a common interest in cooking. It's only natural that they would grow close. So why? While looking worried, Kane asked, are you feeling tired, sir? Legion said, tired? No, I'm perfectly fine. Kane asked, shall I ask Miss Luana to make you some tea? It may help you to recover some of your energy. Legion said, yes, good idea. Kane asked, sir? Legion said, tell her to bring me some tea. Luana said, huh? A reward? While sipping tea, Legion said, although you failed to inform me, I'm aware that you had an incident with the head chef. While Luana freezes after hearing that, Legion said, but you settled the matter well, and there have been no further disturbances. Well done. While putting the cup on the table, he said, so as I said, I'd like to reward you. While pondering, Luana said, oh, I see. That's unexpected. I'll need some time to think about what I want then. She said, I've got it. She then asked, can I visit the market? I heard a huge street market opens up every 5 days. I want to go see what it's like. Legion asked, the market? Were you not given all the ingredients you need? Luana said. No, I was, but it's so much more fun being able to go and choose the ingredients myself. I'm also curious if I can find something new. Things that are unique to the Empire. Oh, but you don't have to worry. I have no intention of running away, I promise. While Legion is sipping tea, she said, but if you don't believe me, then Wade and I can go together. Legion spits after hearing that. While wiping his mouth, he said, if you wish to go to the market as your reward, that's fine. But, he said, I'll be the one to accompany you. While surprised, Luana asked, huh? Really? But aren't you too busy for something like that? Legion said there's no issue with taking one day off. However, there's something else I need to tell you. While washing dishes, Luana looks empty. While she is taking a sigh, Wade said, it's nearing lunchtime, Miss Luana. Shall we get started on His Grace's meal? She said there's no need. We won't need to make his dinner either. Wade asked, what do you mean? Why not? She said while sulking. He said he has to go to the royal palace today, so he'll be eating there. That's why he only asked for breakfast today. While looking at her, Wade thinks in his mind she must feel upset not being able to prepare those meals for the Duke. I understand exactly how she feels. I used to feel the same way. While looking fired up, he thinks, hang in there, Miss Luana. While putting the dishes in shelves, Luana thinks in her mind, after eating all the food I've made for him, he's become so much more easygoing. While sobbing, she thinks in her mind, what if he becomes evil again after having to eat that horrible tasting food out there? She thinks it's not like it's just one meal. It's two. Plus, he's a duke. Whatever business he's going to the palace for will probably end up making him stay longer than a day. Wade asked, are you looking for something? She said, oh, I'm gonna wash some of these other dishes while I'm at it. I don't think we've ever used the ones back here before. While she was wondering, she found something on the shelves. She thinks in her mind, wait, what's this? Meanwhile, in the royal palace, Legion demonstrates swinging his sword to the cadets. After wiping sweat, he said, just as I've shown you, when striking an opponent as large as yourself, swing using your shoulder, not your elbow. One of the cadets said, yes, sir. Understood, sir. Legion thinks in his mind, training is over. That means. One of the cadets said, oh, it's dinner time. While eating, cadets are talking to each other. Nothing beats steak after a full day of training. Chatter. No one can outdo the Leviathan Knights when it comes to fighting and eating. Legion also starts eating. After taking a bite, he almost feels like throwing up. He thinks in his mind, disgusting. While swallowing, he thinks, have I gotten too used to the witch's food? This tastes worse than usual. Still, I need to eat. I already hardly ate lunch. My body needs the energy. One of the soldiers came and said, Your Grace. Legion stops eating. He asked, what is it? The soldier said, His Majesty would like you to see him in the throne room once you've finished your meal. Legion takes a glance at the food and stands up. While standing up, he said, I'll go now. The soldier said, Pardon? His Majesty said you could come after you've finished your. Legion said, I'm done. The next morning, Legion asked, What is all this? Luana said, They're your lunch and dinner boxes. Legion said, Did I not say that the royal palace provides meals? Luana cheerfully said, But you and I both know those meals don't taste good to you. Legion said, They're bearable. Luana said, And you and I both know that was a lie. Just take these. I know how much you eat, so I prepared extra portions. While looking at the stacked food, he said, That is the problem. Even if I wanted to take them, he asked, How would I carry them? While surprised, Luana said, I guess I got a little excited and made too much, but I'm sure you'll burn through them in no time. Actually, it works out since you'd be eating 2 of the meals a day, right? Legion said, The fact remains that I have no means to carry them all. While picturing a carriage, Luana said, Then, what if you use a carriage? I know it's not the most convenient, but. She said, I made each box with the utmost care. So please, Mr. Legion? Please? At the royal palace. A guard told the emperor. Legion entered the palace with a carriage? The emperor asked how unusual. Who was in the carriage? The guard said. Well, no one, sire. Apparently, it was full of picnic baskets. Emperor smirked and said, I see. I happen to have something to discuss with the Duke. Perhaps I should call him over and ask him about it myself. Legion asked, Are you referring to the carriage, Your Majesty? While kneeling, he said, I used it for a small matter, hardly worthy of your attention, sire. The emperor said, Is that so? I'm still curious as to what was in there. He said, Isn't this the first time you've brought something personal with you to the royal palace? You usually bring nothing but yourself. Legion looks hesitant before speaking. He said, Well, they're baskets full of food. Emperor said, But I heard the entire carriage was filled? He said, Are you telling me you brought an entire carriage full of food? While Legion is feeling embarrassed, Emperor said while laughing, Don't you think that's going a little too far? After FRE moments, both the Emperor and Legion are sitting around a table. The Emperor asks Sir Legion, Surely you don't intend on eating all of this by yourself? Legion said, I didn't realize there was so much. The Emperor said, Haha, I see. Then, he said while eating, I'm sure you wouldn't mind sharing with me, now would you? Legion bowed his head and said, Of course not, Your Majesty. After that, Legion looks a little sad, but he didn't said anything. The Emperor thinks in his mind it seems that the princess is doing a fine job of taming Legion. He's so attached he can hardly control his emotions after some light teasing. He thinks, though, as useful as it is to have another way to control him, unfortunately matters will be complicated if he becomes too obsessive. The Emperor then said, Splendid. Seeing as we now have a delightful meal to enjoy. While grinning, he said, I suppose I can share why I requested for you to come see me. Back at the Duke's manor, Wade calls, Miss Luana. Miss Luana! Luana was busy in thoughts. Wade asked, Is there something outside? While stirring the food, Luana said, And no, I was just looking out at the garden. I'm almost finished with this. Wade said, You've been stirring that for quite a while now. Luana asked, Oh, have I? While looking worried, Wade said, You've been acting strange all day, Miss Luana. While taking a sigh, he said, You almost broke a pot earlier, mixed up the spice boxes, and slipped in here at least 5 times. While sweating, Luana said, Was it really 5 times? While feeling a bit down, she said, I guess I have been a little out of it. It's just that today was the first time that Mr. Legion took his food to the royal palace. She said, I can't help but wonder if it was still fresh after the ride there, or what if it didn't taste as good by the time he ate it. Wade said, I understand how you feel. He said, Naturally. A chef is always curious to know whether the customer liked the food. Luana said, Right? Kane knocks on the door and said, Miss Luana, it's Kane. He said, His Grace has returned. Luana dashes to where Legion is and quickly opened the door. She said while Legion is looking, Mr. Legion! Legion asked, What is it? While slamming her hands on the table, Luana asked, So, how were your meals? Legion said, What do I look like to you? Your food taster? Luana said, Of course not. I just wanted to know what you thought so I can cook you something even better tomorrow. Legion said, Fine. He said it was good. While Luana is looking happy, he said His Majesty found it enjoyable as well. Luana gets surprised. She asked, Oh, you ate with His Majesty again? Do the two of you usually eat together? Legion said, No. We just happened to today. Luana thinks in her mind, Well, the Emperor did like what I made last time. Maybe after seeing the boxes he wanted to try more of my cooking? Legion then said, But don't prepare any meals for me tomorrow. Luana asked, Huh? Why? Legion said, Because you'll be going to the royal palace with me. The next morning, maids of the royal palace talks to each other. one said. She refused to eat today as well? The other maid said. Yes. It's been several days now. I'm really worried for her. While sitting on bed, Ingrid thinks in her mind it feels as though my stomach is trying to eat itself. I feel dizzy as well. While taking a sigh, she thinks it's making it harder for me to stay awake. Still, she thinks in her mind while sadly smiling, I won't give up now. I need to be strong. Only a little longer before I'll be able to see Mother and Father again. Out of nowhere her mother came and said, Ingrid! Ingrid! Ingrid, while confused, asked, Mother! Her mother starts going away. Ingrid then said, Wait. Please! Don't leave. She stops after seeing the curtain. She said, It was only the curtains. While sobbing, she thinks in her mind I'd begun hallucinating? While she was crying, Luana came to her room. Luana opened the door and said, Oh my goodness! Ingrid! Are you all right? Ingrid looks towards Luana and thinks in her mind, is this another hallucination? But that looks like. She reaches her hands towards Luana and said, Luana? Luana come close to Ingrid and cross her fingers with Ingrid's fingers and said, Yes. It's me, Ingrid. While tears are dropping from Ingrid's face, Luana said, I'm here. Last night. In Ingrid's room the Emperor and maids are present. While bowing her head, maid said, She still refuses to eat. Emperor said, I finally have her with me, only for her to sit here and starve herself to death. While feeling annoyed, he said, Keep serving her food. Maid said, Yes, your majesty. Ingrid clenches her fist and said in her mind, Bastard. She thinks in her mind, if you caused all of this horror just to have me. She looks towards the Emperor and maid leaving and thinks, then I will do everything in my power not to become yours. You will never have me. Luana said, I was so shocked. I heard that you weren't doing well, but I didn't realize it was this bad. While Ingrid is looking hesitant to eat, Luana said, Oh, don't worry. I made sure to blend the porridge extra well, so it should be really easy to digest. Ingrid asked while looking worried, Luana? How are you doing? Huh? Ingrid said. It isn't just me. You've lost everything as well. While picturing in her mind, she said, Our castle, our parents, our people, our entire country. We've lost everything. Yet, how are you still so? While standing, Luana said, Well, all those things you mentioned aren't really things that I lost. Ingrid said, What? Luana said, What I lost are old, shabby clothes, a tiny, abandoned castle. She said, and a father who was never part of my life. That's it. I didn't have anything else besides those few things. She said while smiling, I was an abandoned princess, remember? Ingrid lowers her head and said, I see. I apologize. I spoke carelessly. While flustered, Luana said, Oh, but that doesn't mean I don't understand your pain. While looking sad, she said, It's actually the opposite. I know exactly how you feel because there was a time when I felt I had nothing to live for either. She said, But what I did back then was focus on what I had left, not on what I had lost. While Ingrid is stunned after hearing that, Luana happily said, I'm still here, so what can I do to make the most out of it? Ingrid thinks in her mind while looking shocked, Something that I can do? Luana said, Well, I say all that, but all I ended up really doing was cooking. Hee hee, I didn't mean to make myself sound so grand. Ingrid starts eating. While eating, she was crying. While patting her, Luana said, Take your time. There's plenty more to eat. Ingrid said, Thank you. I'll eat all of it. After eating, Ingrid fell asleep. Phew. While Ingrid is squeezing Luana's hand while sleeping, Luana thinks in her mind, I guess she hasn't been getting a lot of sleep lately. She passed out right after eating everything. Emperor and Legion came to Ingrid's room. Luana said, Oh, your majesty. Ingrid just fell asleep. Emperor came close to Ingrid's bed and reaches his hand to Ingrid and asked, Did she finally eat? Luana said yes, but... While the Emperor is looking sadly at Ingrid sleeping and extends his hand close to her face, Luana dashes and blocks it, and said she's sleeping. Both the Emperor and Legion get startled by that, while getting angry by Luana's action. Enraged Emperor said, "And?" Luana said, "I'm saying she just now fell asleep. Even if you're the Emperor, you shouldn't disturb." Legion quickly stops her, and while bowing her head with his, he said, "My sincerest apologies, Your Majesty. She's still learning." Emperor asked, "Why are you apologizing on her behalf, Legion?" While Luana flinches, Emperor said, "She's the one who stepped out of line." Legion said, "Because she is one of mine, Your Majesty." With a blank expression, Emperor said, "I'm in no mood to entertain this. Both of you leave." Legion said, "Yes, Your Majesty." And both Legion and Luana left the room. While taking a sigh, Emperor thinks in his mind, a child who dares to step in the way of the Emperor, and a duke who's willing to protect her. Haha. While laughing in rage, he said, "Perhaps I should take her from him." While walking in hallway, Legion takes a sigh and said, "For someone who begged me to spare their life, you seem to have very little regard for living." While feeling sorry, Luana said, "I'm so sorry. I just felt so bad for Ingrid that I..." Legion said, "Do not make the same mistake again. The Emperor may have shown you grace in the past, but he is not a particularly kind individual." While sniffling, Luana said, "Yes, sir. I'll make sure to keep that in mind." She thinks in her mind, "I must have been out of my mind. This is the Emperor we're talking about. A friggin' psychopath who wiped out an entire country just to have Ingrid." She pauses and said, "Oh, but..." Legion asked while walking, "What is it?" Luana stares at him from behind and asked, "You consider me as one of your own?" After hearing that, Legion stops walking.